Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out for the war between Russia and Ukraine, and there's lots of big news I'd like to share with you today. So, last night, Ukrainian drones entered into Russian territory once again, and we have reports of another oil refinery, this time in the Krasnodar region of Russia. It's in southwestern Russia, not too far away from the Ukrainian border. We have Russia's Albashneft oil refinery in the town of Novominskaya that was struck last night with drones. You can see here in the video footage, completely on fire. At least one of these oil storage tanks have been destroyed. And I'm sure multiple drones were attacking this facility at the same time. The regional governor was claiming that all the drones were shot down once again, and that drone debris fell into the territory of this oil refinery, causing a fire. Most likely it was due to a drone striking, which I do have video footage indicating that. Okay, so we're going to talk more about another oil refinery yet again in Russia going up in flames. And this is also being classified as a mini refinery. It's going to look more like an oil depot. And I have shown you guys multiple oil depots that have been attacked in the past, but apparently this is classified as a mini refinery. Okay, so we'll talk about that. And also, we have reports today that Ukraine was able to exchange 150 Ukrainian prisoners of war for 150 Russian prisoners. So that's some big news. I got pictures coming out from Ukraine today. We have 150 soldiers that have returned back to their homeland inside of Ukraine. So that's very big news today and great news for Ukraine. And also last night, I believe there were missiles going into Ukraine. We have the town of Druzhkivka. This is in the Donetsk region that got hit by missiles, what it looks like to me. We have major destruction to report over there. And I think there was something over 100 drones that were fired into Ukraine last night. So their air defense teams were very active, trying to take down a lot of these incoming objects. And I believe it could have been around 4 missiles that were fired into Ukraine last night. So I got a lot of information to go into with you guys. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. We're going to jump on over to a mainstream news article over here on Ukrinform. Just for a moment, let me give you information regarding this strike on this oil refinery once again. It says here, Ukraine's forces strike oil refinery in Russia's Krasnodar territory, says General Staff. Security Service of Ukraine, SSU units, in coordination with the armed forces and other defense force components, struck the Albashneft oil refinery in Russia's Krasnodar territory overnight on February 5th. According to Ukrinform, the Ukrainian General Staff reported this on Facebook. The facility, classified as a mini refinery, processes crude oil and supplies gasoline and diesel fuel to the Russian military. The attack resulted in confirmed hits and a fire at the site, with further damage assessments ongoing. And it says here, additionally, Ukrainian drone units successfully targeted and damaged a Russian Buk surface-to-air missile system and temporarily occupied part of Zaporizhzhia region. So apparently we had another air defense system being destroyed also, this time in the Zaporizhzhia region. Once again, we've been reporting multiples of these Buk air defense systems being hit, most likely due to an FPV drone. And it says here, as Ukrinform previously reported, a fuel storage tank caught fire in Russia's Krasnodar territory following a drone attack overnight on February 5th. Okay, so that's going to be it for that article. Just to give you a little bit of information on this attack with this oil refinery, and also that Buk air defense system being destroyed in the Zaporizhzhia region, which would have been kind of on the way to where this oil refinery is at. So maybe it was struck by drones, who really knows here, but most likely it was an FPV drone being used. So now we're going to hop on over to a map and let me show you guys exactly where this refinery is located in the Krasnodar region. So we got Ukrainian territory here. Here's Russia. There's Moscow up there. So down here in the southwestern portion of Russia, in the Krasnodar region, there's Krasnodar right here. It's just a little bit north, close to the border of Ukraine. We're going to zoom into the town of Novominskaya, I believe is how you pronounce that. So it's a small little town over here in southwestern Russia in the Krasnodar region. So just on the northwestern side of this little town, we have the Albashneft oil refinery. Okay, so it definitely looks very small. And apparently this is considered a mini refinery. It does look like an oil depot. We've shown at multiples of these oil depots in Russia. A lot of times is what they look like. Just a few of these oil storage tanks here. But as far as I know, at least one of these, I think is this middle one over here, or it could be this one. One of these two were directly hit in the video footage. There was also some other pictures coming out from this area of somebody apparently standing down here taking photos of this facility, because you're able to see like these little other storage tanks. I'm not sure what these are right here, but the angle from the photo that I saw was aiming this direction, and but it looks like, based on the video footage, it could be this or this oil tank here that caught on fire. So we know for sure at least one of them have been destroyed, and who knows, maybe this thing will spread and get much larger and destroy more of these tanks. We have seen that happen before. So very big possibility this facility is going to be shut down for a short time, and I think it produces refines like 320,000 tons of hydrocarbon raw materials per year. So pretty good amount of refining being done at this facility. Okay. So there it is in the town of Novominskaya, northwest a little bit over here. And again, in southwestern Russia, in the Krasnodar region, probably about 100 kilometers or so from the border of Ukraine. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop on over to X now. And I've got lots of video footage and pictures coming out over here. We'll talk about some of these other events going on with this war also. So from Max 24, AFU strike, Albashneft, LLC oil depot. Currently, the design capacity of the plant allows increase in the processing volume to 320,000 tons of hydrocarbon raw materials per year. So we've got a video we can show you guys. This video is actually going to be like security camera footage showing a direct strike on the facility. And you're almost going to think that it was a missile that's coming in and striking this facility, but it actually is a drone. And I know this because if you watch the time will be kind of going up quickly. So I think they just kind of sped up the video to make it a little bit quicker. So we'll start off with that, and then we got a picture here also. Okay, so not a whole lot of sound here in this video, but we were able to see that strike. We can see it going up in flames here soon after. So a massive explosion over here soon after when this drone came in. So you'll see it right here on your screen. That thing will fly in. There it is. So if you notice, the time is kind of going up very quickly here, much faster than normal time. So they kind of just sped up the video to show this strike in action. Okay, so this was the actual impact of this drone striking the facility. We can see the smoke there after too. Soon after, whenever this fire goes out a little bit, we can see some of the smoke rising here. So definitely a major hit. And we also have a photo coming out from the facility showing the fire here. So there's those little tiny storage tanks. Again, I don't know exactly what those are, but somebody was standing over here just on this road that runs by this facility. And just beyond this first tank here, it looks like that second, maybe the third tank is on fire there, okay? We've now got this video footage that we had for you on the waiting screen, but I'll play it with sound, and it does have subtitles, and the men in the car are kind of talking about this facility and the fact that the fire needs to be put out. So this is from Special Kherson Cat, Russian oil depot in the Krasnodar region of Russia burning after tonight's drone attack. Okay, so we got a 39-second clip of this place on fire. Go ahead and take a look at this.
Хули за пожарка? Сюда пену надо, нахуй.
Так главное, чтобы, знаешь, чтобы на другую бочку не перешло.
А нехуй делать.
И не ударило еще. Сейчас будут тушить, и вторая как даст, ля как там пылает.
Вода тут до пизды, нахуй. Еще хуже будет, она бы растекаться, нахуй. Пеной нагасыть, блядь.
Посмотри, она... не тушится ни хера.
All right, so we can see from this footage, at least one confirmed oil storage tank has been destroyed. And this is probably at least 4 or 5 oil refineries that we've reported on just over the last couple weeks. So Ukraine definitely is going after the oil refineries right now. If you notice, they're not really striking oil depots anymore. They're just going directly after their refining process plants. So pretty insane that we continue to see this. And Ukraine has been so successful at doing this repeatedly almost every single night. So yet again, another oil refinery destroyed. So now we're going to move on to talk about some of these other topics here. We'll talk about these soldiers that have been returned today inside of Ukraine. This is from the Ukrainian Review. Zelensky, today is a good day for all of us. We are returning 150 of our defenders from Russian captivity. Some of the guys were in captivity for more than 2 years. Can you imagine that, guys? 2 years in captivity. Thank you to our partners, in particular, the UAE, and to those who support us on this path. Okay, so here's some photos of some of these soldiers coming out of captivity up to 2 years. That's insane. I can't imagine being held as prisoner for 2 years And imagine how lucky you feel, being able to go home to your families. And it's amazing to see these people heading home. Okay. So there's some photos coming out today on a bus inside of Ukraine. Here's another one also from Igor Sushko. Ukraine: 150 Ukrainian prisoners of war held by the Russian fascists returned home as part of a prisoner exchange. Some survived over 2 years of torture in Russian concentration camps. Here's another photo coming out from this bus here. And yeah, so it was 150 Ukrainians for 150 Russians swap. It looks like Ukraine was able to make that deal, so that's very good. And we have been seeing a lot of Russian soldiers being captured lately, so that helps out with their exchange fund whenever they do these transfers of swapping prisoners on either side. I think I actually have another post today talking about that. I think Ukraine captured some more Russian soldiers recently. Now from Max 24, airstrike on Druzhkivka. Rescuers eliminate the consequences of the Russian attack. Okay, so I believe this was a missile attack inside of Druzhkivka. Again, this is in the Donetsk region of Ukraine, very close to the front line. So maybe Russia was going after military targets over here. Don't know exactly what it was, but it looks like we had a warehouse. We've got some houses that were destroyed here, catching on fire. We can see the firefighter crews here trying to put out the flames on some of these homes. It looks like we may have had a home here destroyed or some sort of building. Not really sure exactly what the target was, but Russia did launch a major attack over here. I think it could have been Iskander ballistic missiles, but some sort of missiles were fired today, okay? I think we'll go over that towards the end of this video, what kind of missiles it was. So now from David Lammy, so he's the Secretary of State or Foreign Secretary of the UK, okay? So today I'm in Kiev to show the UK's support for Ukraine is unbreakable. We are determined to put Ukraine in the strongest possible position against Russia's barbaric and relentless attacks. Our friendship is cemented for the next century and beyond by our 100-year partnership. All right, so we have David Lammy today. Again, the Foreign Secretary of the UK. He arrived in Kiev. So I'm actually going to have a lot of reports. I think I have at least 3 coming out from Kiev today as some major statements were being made by Volodymyr Zelensky while he was also meeting with David Lammy. So this was a photo of him today as he arrived in Kiev off the locomotive. All right, now from Military News UA. Ukraine is attacking Russian refineries with the aim of destroying the Russian economy. More than 2/3 of the enemy's 30 largest plants have been attacked in a month, according to Welt, and Welt is a publication out of Germany. The implementation of this plan lasted 1 year and 4 months and is still ongoing. According to the publication, no more than 48 hours passed between the release of the drone and the strike. All right, so yeah, new report coming out from Welt today, and they're claiming that Ukraine is actually actively working on trying to destroy Russia's economy by hitting all these oil refineries, and I believe that just based on what I've been reporting with you guys. I mean, for sure, over the last 2 to 3 weeks, all we've really been seeing is attacks directly on oil refineries, just like we saw today, or last night, I guess. And we're not seeing so much attacks on the oil depots right now. It's mainly the refineries. And to me, that makes more sense, especially if there's a lot less oil refineries than there are oil depots. The refining process is very important for Russia to even sell this oil, period, and also convert it into gas and whatever it might be. So yeah, new report coming out today. I understand this map is in, I believe it's in Russian, so unfortunately we can't read it. Just kind of shows the different locations that have been attacked and what hasn't been, but a good majority of them have already been attacked inside of Russia. Now for Max 24, the Russians have been decreasing the number of assault operations for the 7th day in a row, deep state with reference to the statistics of the General Staff. Thus, 80 attacks were recorded yesterday, while at the peak in December, their number reached 292 per day. Dynamics by months. November, 5,205 attacks, average daily 173.5. December, 6,247 attacks, or 201.5 per day. January, 5,087 attacks, or 164 attacks per day. 4 days of February, 381 attacks, 95 per day. So look at the difference there, guys. Coming from around anywhere from 150 or 160 up to 200 attacks per day on average, dropping all the way down to 95 per day on average. So that's pretty much almost a 50% decrease. Here's a little chart showing the amount of attacks inside of Russia recently, or at least inside of Ukraine, Russia attacking Ukraine is what I should say. So they are decreasing, and you know what is something that I have been noticing recently that we've been sharing with you guys, and I think we're going to see that once again today with the troop numbers or troop casualties on the Russian side have been dropping a little bit. We haven't been seeing so many 1,500 a day, 2,000 a day of troop casualties on the Russian side. We've been seeing a little bit less, like right around 1,200, I'd say on average, maybe 1,300. So that's possibly indicating that as well. And something we've been seeing a lot also recently that I've been sharing with you guys is lots of videos and pictures coming out of the Russians not using military vehicles to transport to the front line. So this is a big possibility that maybe it could be due to logistics, that maybe they don't even have the vehicles to get to the front line. We see them riding on donkeys, riding on horses, riding on little makeshift cars and little motorcycles. They're literally using anything they can find. We're not seeing so much Russian military equipment or military vehicles being used to transport Russian troops. So that could be a big one too, is maybe they don't even have transportation, or is it because that Russia's lacking the manpower? You guys can let me know what you think down below, but that was a new report, very big report today. Now from Liskovka, the president signed bills extending martial law and mobilization until May 9th, 2025, the Verkhovna Rada website says. Okay, this was a report today of Vladimir Zelensky signing a new bill extending martial law and mobilization until May 9th. So that's just a couple months from now. What, about 3 months or so? And we keep hearing that maybe this war could end around April or May. I believe that is the major goal for the Trump administration in the United States right now, to try to end this war in the next 3 months. We'll see if that's going to be the case. I don't know for sure if that's going to happen or not, but interesting that they're extending the martial law and mobilization only until May, which that appears to be somewhere around the timeline of when we could potentially see this war coming to an end. Maybe Ukraine is going to hold elections soon after that. That's when martial law and mobilization would have to come to an end in order for them to do that. So interesting information today. That's a very big sign indicating that maybe this war could be ending by May. Now from Max 24, Zelensky is not the legitimate president of Ukraine. Despite this, Russia is ready to negotiate with him, according to Dmitry Peskov, who is the Kremlin spokesman. Okay, so I thought this was very big as well. And then when we're talking about the war potentially coming to an end, maybe could this indicate that as well? Because we've been hearing recently, literally just over the last couple of days, I showed you guys some reports coming out from the Kremlin. They were saying we're not even going to negotiate with Zelensky because we don't recognize him as the legitimate president of Ukraine, that they'd want to negotiate with somebody else. They were even saying just negotiating directly through Trump. But obviously they've got to negotiate with Vladimir Zelensky, because right now he is the president of Ukraine, whether they want to recognize him as a legitimate president or not. So it looks like they are open to negotiations now. So that's very big. Maybe that's a step in the right direction, that we might see this war coming to an end now, that Russia appears to be open to negotiations with Zelensky. Okay. Now from Max 24, photo report from. This was a little bit hard to pronounce, but I think it's Voronezh Neft product, if I'm saying that right. Oil depot in Liski. At least 3 oil tanks were completely destroyed. Okay, so we talked about the Liski oil depot. This was probably one of the last oil depots that was hit before Ukraine started launching a stream of attacks on the oil refineries inside of Russia. So I want to say this was probably about 3 weeks ago that we reported this, not too long, maybe a month at the most. And this is a new photo coming out from the Liski oil depot showing major damage over here to a lot of these storage tanks. And this thing was burning for a week, maybe almost 2 weeks. And if you notice, they do have drone cages on these oil tanks, and still somehow a drone was able to penetrate through this and destroying one of these oil storage tanks. Then eventually it spread into other ones, you can see here. So new photo with an update coming out from there. Now from next to IAEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency, is afraid to go to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant because of Russia. The IAEA has postponed its mission rotation at the Russian-controlled Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant due to a lack of security guarantees from Russia, Ukraine's foreign ministry said. Kyiv accused Moscow of blackmail and attempting to undermine expert independence. Ukraine vowed to prevent Russian interference in the agency's work. Okay, so this is a photo. This is actually made from Grok, which is like an AI platform here on X. So this isn't the actual photo of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, just for illustration. Yeah, so this was interesting, that I thought that the IAEA is not going to be going to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. They typically go there and visit to make sure that it's safe. because obviously it's in the middle of a war zone. We've been hearing a lot recently that drones, I think sometimes even artillery, is striking this facility, sometimes destroying power lines, and power gets cut off here, which is very dangerous if that happens to be the case. But every time we have seen the power come back on over here, which is very good news. And it looks like the IAEA is very scared about going over here, as Russia's not giving them good security guarantees, and maybe they're afraid of being attacked. They don't want their officials to be killed over here because obviously it's in the middle of a war zone. So that can't be good news coming out from there, right? All right, now for Max 24 again, replenishment of exchange fund in the Kursk region. Okay, so here's more photos. I was telling you guys that we had Russian soldiers reportedly being captured here. We can see some of them wearing military uniforms and some of them are not. So these are some new photos coming out today. Looks like, I think there was approximately about 20 or 21 of them that were captured in total, but these were just some of the photos showing a few of them that were captured in the Kursk region, okay? Now for Max 24 again, Ukraine will deploy full-fledged robotic units as part of the Armed Forces brigades on the front lines. Ground drones are able to implement offensive and defensive operations, provide logistical support to units, evacuate the wounded, mine and demine territories. Okay, so more reports of Ukraine utilizing drones. Here's one with a machine gun attached to the top of it. We've been seeing Ukraine using a lot more of these drones recently. We even had a report probably about a month or so ago that I let you guys know that Ukraine had their first successful attack using only unmanned ground vehicle systems, or the UGVs. Yeah, they launched a major attack in the Kharkiv region using only drones and apparently was very successful with it. So lots of more reports coming out indicating that Ukraine's using more and more drones in this war against Russia. All right, now a few of the statements coming out from Zelensky today, as again, he was speaking with the Foreign Secretary of the UK, David Lammy. So we have this report here from Max 24, and it says Ukraine has destroyed Russia's ground offensive potential. That is, it is no longer a dangerous adversary for the U.S. We have destroyed their experienced army, and we have destroyed them at the cost of the lives of Ukrainians, says Zelensky. Thanks to us, the Americans know how the modern Russian army fights, who fights and who pretends, who are professionals on the battlefield. They know what they can do, where they live, what they are capable of, what they have achieved, what they cannot do, and what they will never do. All this information is very valuable. Yes, definitely, I have to agree with that. This war has exposed so much about Russia. It's exposed so much about modern warfare, how wars are now going to be fought in the future. Drone warfare, I mean, it's exposed so much. But again, something that I have stated here multiple times, is if Russia was really doing so well in this war, they'd be just rolling right through Ukraine right now and pummeling them. And we haven't really seen that at all, pretty much throughout the majority of this war. The offensive towards the beginning, maybe the first year, moved kind of quickly, but soon after that, Ukraine pretty much put a halt to this. And we've seen incremental gains from the Russians. Nonetheless, they are gaining territory, but at a very high cost, okay? If they're not moving very quickly, most likely indicating that they're losing a lot of troops in the process, considering that they're not gaining ground very fast. So, yes, I have to agree, this war did expose a lot about Russia's military, their capabilities, also Ukraine's abilities too, okay? The fact that Ukraine is pretty much holding them back for the most part on their own, aside from getting weapon support from the West, their military themselves is doing a lot of the work. So, yeah, lots of information regarding that. Now from the Ukrainian Review, Putin killed tens of thousands of civilians, and most of them were Russian-speaking. 90% of those killed by Russia were in eastern Ukraine, in the same regions that Putin occupied, said Zelensky. He invaded Ukraine believing that Russian speakers would support him. He was told they will welcome you. It was a lie, and yet he bombed them, killed them, and destroyed their homes. Well, I mean, we have seen a lot of photos and video coming out from the eastern side of Ukraine. Many cities like, Avdiivka, completely destroyed, okay, especially in the Donetsk region. A lot of major cities that, had tens of thousands of people living there, just completely wiped off the face of the earth. Chasiv Yar and just numerous others. So, you guys can let me know what you think about that down below, but this was a statement that Zelensky made today claiming that, Russia's killed a lot of the even Russian-speaking people in the eastern side of Ukraine. So, if Russia wanted to, if their goal was to kind of go in and help out the people of the eastern side of Ukraine, which is kind of some things that Putin has mentioned before, is he really accomplishing that, or is he actually doing the opposite? You guys can let me know. Now, from Max 24, this is a historic operation. Tomorrow marks 6 months since the start of the Kursk direction, says Zelensky. The Russians suffered heavy losses there. Russian armed forces will not displace the AFU from the Kursk region. Okay, so I thought this was a big statement today and something to know. Yeah, that's crazy. I can't believe I've been reporting the Kursk region for 6 months now. It just shows how fast time goes now. And, 6 months later, the Ukrainians are still there. And Russia has been unable to push them out. Okay, there's been multiple times that Putin has ordered his troops to force Ukraine out of the Kursk region, and I want to say it was at least 2 or 3 times over the last 6 months, and it still has not happened yet. Okay, so that's another big sign too. If Ukraine is still there, and Zelensky's claiming that Russia will not be able to force them out, then this is another big sign that Russia's taken major losses up there as well. And we have been hearing that even with the North Korean soldiers, them being pulled back from the front lines reportedly, and them taking on heavy losses as well. So definitely another major sign that Russia's taken big losses here in this war effort. Now for Max 24, we've got a report here on Telegram that he's sharing. It says a conscript soldier driving a Kamaz truck without a driver's license rammed an Su-25 SM-3 attack aircraft at an airfield in Simferopol. I believe this is in eastern Ukraine, as a result of which the aircraft was, as they say, totally destroyed, suffered damage that prevented its further use for its intended purpose. The incident occurred when a serviceman from the Chelyabinsk region, Alexander Erlich, was driving a truck from one aircraft parking area to another. Having exceeded the speed limit, he collided with the attack aircraft, which was being towed by a Ural APA 5D vehicle using a rigged hitch. Okay, so reports here that we had a transport vehicle that Russia uses for their military, and looks like a conscript soldier was driving it, and he didn't even have a license apparently. He ended up crashing into an Su-25 SM-3 attack aircraft, destroying it. Here's a photo for reference from Noel Reports. A Russian conscript without a license crashed a Kamaz truck into an Su-25 SM-3 at a Simferopol airfield, completely destroying the jet engine. Damage was $4.3 million. The unit lost combat capability. The soldier got a 1-year suspended sentence, must pay a $111,000 fine. So this is a photo of one of these aircraft, just for illustration to show what would have been destroyed, as apparently this Kamaz transport truck crashed into it, and this man did not even have a license. So this was at one of the airfields in Simferopol, okay? Now moving on to Anton Gerashenko. Keith Kellogg, Trump's special envoy, will present the U.S. strategy to end the war at a security conference in Munich that will take place on February 14th to February 16th. Okay, so that's in literally just like a week and a half or 2 weeks from now, guys. Pleased to announce my participation at the Munich Security Conference 2025. As President Donald J. Trump, Special Envoy for Russia and Ukraine, I look forward to speaking about Trump's goal to end the bloody and costly war in Ukraine. I'll meet with America's allies who are ready to work with us, Kellogg wrote. All right, so very big update now. We heard about this a little bit yesterday, that Keith Kellogg was reportedly going to be heading to Ukraine very soon. Now looks like we have official confirmation and actual dates now. So February 14th through the 16th, he's going to be heading to Munich and holding a conference over there and presenting this strategy to end the war. Okay, so very big news. And again, hopefully we see this war coming to an end very soon. We'll see who it's going to benefit. Is it going to benefit Russia? Is it going to benefit Ukraine? We don't really know. I think it might be kind of split down the middle, but it really could go either way. And we have been hearing also from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, from the Trump administration in the United States. He's also been claiming that both sides are going to have to make concessions. So I'm thinking one big concession for Ukraine could have to be potentially, maybe they might have to give up the eastern side of Ukraine and the territories that have been taken. Who knows? It really all depends on what Zelensky agrees to at the end, and the Ukrainian government, okay? Now for more translated, armed forces of Ukraine struck Ola Pristan, not sure, destroying more than 10 boats and Russian personnel, according to partisans. The Atesh movement reported that partisans had identified the location of enemy forces and their equipment near the settlement of Ola Pristan in the Kherson region. This information was passed on to the Ukrainian military. As a result, more than 10 boats and significant number of Russian servicemen were destroyed. Okay, so the Atesh movement, they're like down in like Crimea and some of the occupied regions in the south, like Kherson and also Zaporizhia. So apparently they passed on some information that maybe the Russians were preparing another boat assault across the river to get over to Kherson. We just reported on that recently. The Russians have been trying to engage and take over Kherson, the city. And in order for them to do that, they have to utilize boats. Okay, we've been hearing that lots of boats have been gathered up. So these were some photos here. I believe those might be boats right there that the Russia servicemen were trying to use. Here's some right here, as they tried to storm across the river and launch assaults onto Kherson. And looks like Ukraine was able to get some intel from the Atesh partisans in the Kherson region and launch a strike over here before the Russians could utilize these boats to try to attack. So that was pretty crazy news coming out. All right, now a couple more things to share with you guys before we get you out of here. All right, so this is from Max 24. Ukrainian air defense shot down 57 out of 104 Shahed UAVs, 42 UAVs suppressed by EW, which is electronic warfare. And there's a question mark, so we don't know how many of these Iskander-M ballistic missiles were shot down. But this is what I mentioned earlier, is we did have missiles coming into Ukraine in the town of Druzhkivka. And looks like it was hit by Iskander-M ballistic missiles, so we don't know how many of those were shot down. Maybe there were some, maybe none. Typically, a lot of these Iskanders do make it into Ukraine, as they're very hard to shoot down. But 57 out of 104 shot down directly of these UAVs, and 42 suppressed by electronic warfare. So good majority most likely being brought down, which is probably why we don't really hear of any drone attacks inside of Ukraine. So good news for Ukraine if they were able to take down a good majority of those. Now, finally, our last update of the day from the Kyiv Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of February 5th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. All right, and our final update of the day, Russia's losses as of February 5th, 1,270 troops, 12 AFVs, 157 vehicles and fuel tanks, quite a bit today, 9 tanks, 52 artillery systems, 99 UAVs, and also 2 special equipment. Okay, so something I want to note here is the troop numbers. What we've been seeing is closer to like 1,000, like right around 1,200. And just maybe a month back, it was like 1,500, sometimes 2,000 or more per day being confirmed, or approximately being confirmed on the Russian side from Ukrainian intelligence that Russia was losing in this war. And lately we've been seeing a little bit less troop numbers. And then think about that post that I shared with you guys talking about how Russia's launching a lot less attacks. So that could be also what we're seeing here, is maybe the reason why their troop numbers, troop casualties, are lower is due to less attacks. Okay, I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Can't completely confirm that, but it's something to note that I have been seeing as we go over typically one of these reports every single day, showing the troop losses and some of the losses of the Russian military with their equipment as well. So yeah, lots of big news coming out from this war today, guys. I want to thank you very much for being here. Definitely another major strike on another oil refinery inside Russia, now in the Krasnodar region, the Albashneft oil refinery being hit and destroyed last night, at least one storage tank. So huge news today from this war. I want to thank you very much for being here. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. With that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.